Yeah, your boy's back. He's finally back to recording and giving awful opinions on his movies. So, it's been a bit of a rough month for me. I'm going through a job transition at the moment and just dealing with some family stuff and trying to get through some of my personal issues. So, it's just been quite a month for me. So, I'm going to go back to, and part of the reason why I'm going back to recording videos kind of late at night is because, well, trying to get my mind off this. My hair is all sorts of messed up and like messing with my hair as I'm recording this. But I'm trying to I just want to get this out of the way, just to get my thoughts on the movie out and kind of get my mind off things. So, I went to go see The Bride, and yeah. I don't know how to feel about this one, if I'm going to be honest. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm going to try and make this review not as speedy, but definitely as efficiently as possible. I know as soon as I say that, this is probably going to turn out to be a 30-minute review anyway, but I'm going to try my best to try and get my thoughts out because, man, there was a lot to unpack with this movie, and I'm trying to get this done. Not in a hastily rushed way, but definitely more efficiently than how some of my other reviews are. So, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this, especially since the critic reviews from the very start have been very divisive. This is like Joker levels of divisive. Now, I've seen the commercial for this. This was like in my top 10 movies I wanted to see this year. And I've seen like commercials for it. I really looked forward to it. And ever since the reviews came out, that's what intrigued me to go see this movie even more. So, finally went to go see it, and yeah, I don't know what side you would necessarily put me on. In fact, I would even put me on a side, because there is so much to this movie that I strongly dislike, but this movie has so many good ideas, but yet it has so little time to just get it. It is a messy film. Now, for those of you that have not seen the commercial or the trailers for this, it is like Joker meets Bonnie Clyde, but with Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, who is named Ida in this movie. And even though I'm going to get my positives out of the way first. Movie, it looks and sounds fantastic. The way the cinematography is pretty cool. I saw this in IMAX, which was a bit of a gamble for me because I don't think this was going to be IMAX worthy. In fact, this is going to get into my criticisms in a little bit, especially with expanded aspect ratio. I know IMAX does that, and this says it was filmed for IMAX. And yes, in terms of looks fantastic. Maggie Gyllenhaal, she directed the hell out of this. She did a fantastic job behind the camera. In terms of the script, I'm no writer, I'm no director. Making movies are hard, so I'm not going to judge too harshly on that. And I'll give my thoughts and opinions on the story overall. But she does a really great job, in fact, directing it. Jessie Buckley does a fantastic job as the bride. She knocks it out of the park. Christian Bale, he's having the time of his life in this movie. He is just there's like a full-on musical dance number he's doing in here, and he is having a blast. This is within the first hour of the movie too. I'd say the first 45 to 50 minutes, almost to basically an hour into the movie. The movie just shined from that first hour, but then completely went off the rails in that final act. But I'll get into that in just a little bit. Like I said, I'm listing my praises so far. But yeah, the actors do great. The cinematography is fantastic. But those are the technical aspects. But yeah, unfortunately, does that make a good movie? Well, I got spoiler alert. No, it does not. Also, I'm not adding clips, so you're going to have to deal with me talking into a camera, or you can just listen to my nice, soothing voice, for those of you that happen to be watching or have even made it this far. But yeah, the story is not that great, unfortunately. From the very start, I knew this was going to be a controversial movie because this movie it feels very experimental. Maggie Gyllenhaal's trying to do a lot of unique things with this movie, and some of it sticks, but a lot of it does not stick. It is trying to be weird, but and I like my weird movies. I like when movies just go out there, go nuts to butts, let's just go nutty here. And yeah, this movie does do that, but it doesn't always stick, and I guess, credit where credit is due. She is being experimental and just going like, well, I don't give a shit, so here's some weirdness I'm just going to throw. You can like it or you can dislike it. So, you know what? There was some stuff there that I did like. That was weird, very awkward, but you know what? I vibed with it because, like I said, I'm a weird guy. This was a weird movie, and I dig that type of stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, I would say right near once the second act starts, that's when the movie falls apart for me. The movie has a great hook, and like Christian Bale's great as Frankenstein and everything, but oh man, one of my biggest complaints is seeing this in IMAX, honestly. And normally I enjoy IMAX movies, especially when it's filmed for IMAX. It's pretty cool whenever the aspect ratio, if it's a widescreen, it would then, shift from, a full screen or a 1:43 aspect ratio. Or depending on what type of theater you have. This is why I'm a big IMAX nerd here. But yeah, in the IMAX theater I was in, the screen did shift. But, oh man, I don't know what Maggie Gyllenhaal was smoking, but there is one or two scenes in here where right near the beginning, the IMAX aspect ratio shifts for like maybe 5 seconds when Christian Bale is like having a freak out moment, and then it shifts back to widescreen. Totally abrupt, threw me off, and I was like, oh, okay, it felt like a Transformers The Last Night situation where it just kept shifting over and over again. So it couldn't decide if it wanted to have like the big IMAX moments and have just the regular standard widescreen. So I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if that's how Maggie Gyllenhaal intended it to be filmed. If that's the case, it's just like, it's a little rough, but you know what? Like I said, I'm not a director. I'm not here to criticize art, but I am throwing it out there. There is some strobe lights in this movie, so fair warning to anyone with epilepsy, and that did give me a headache. And I mean, this movie shifts the camera around so much. I mean, I got damn near nauseated watching this movie because there was a lot of camera movements here, and just eating that buttery popcorn in the theater and sipping on my soda. I swear, I could have been hammered during this, and I probably would have thrown up. But, yeah, that did get kind of annoying, but if you're hooked into the story like I kind of was, you kind of get the effect. But yeah, the story is just like, the best way I can explain this is the fact that it is Joker, all the good parts of Joker, and most of Joker 2. Like, there was so many moments where I was like, oh, this literally is just Joker 2, where, Arthur Fleck and Harley Quinn are singing and dancing. And then other times I'm just like, oh, this is like a very slow, I mean, they even get the same composer. I'm not going to try and pronounce her name because I'm going to goof it up. But the same composer for Joker, I'm sorry, her Joker soundtrack slaps. This one, I can't think of one where I was just like, damn, that was good. And maybe I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting here, but I don't know, man. I truly do not know anymore what I expected with this film. But it certainly wasn't this. But yeah, and then for some weird reason, well, not for some weird reason, I get that this was the point of the film. Maggie Gyllenhaal does do like a feminist point of view with the movie, in terms of like men and assaulting, and there is a lot of good messages here that I'm just like, yeah, that's a pretty good message. but it does go overboard at times, and it does feel like it does take me a little bit out of it, but it's an overall good message that I'm just like, you know what? Cool. And for this character, really cool. I'm going to try and refrain from spoilers here, but I'm just going to spoil it anyway. But the author of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, she is a character in this movie that possesses one of, I believe it was Ida, like right at the beginning. So just throwing that out there, Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, is a legit character in this movie that comes in the form of a ghost and is in this like purgatory essentially. But yeah, she's cheering, the bride off in the background. Oh man, I just got back from the theater and the movie there's not a whole lot to remember about this movie because there's not a whole lot of big moments. But yeah, on top of, the Frankenstein bride storyline, which essentially is just Joker 2 and Bonnie and Clyde, that type of plot. And then you also there's a cop that's also in it, or detective, played by Alexander Skarsgård. He does an okay job in this, and along with Penelope Cruz. They both do a great job. I like them both as actors. And yeah, there is like a very odd like corruption plot line that gets thrown in right by the third act, and there's like a mobster that's like out to get the bride's tongue, and yeah, it just coincides to this conclusion that, okay, so admittedly here, get ready to throw eggs at me, I started to drift off near the end. There, I said it. I started to kind of drift off a little bit. I got a little bit cold in the theater as well, so I turned on the seat heat, and right when they're in the final act, when they're in the location of the lab, and they're all confronting each other, and some shit just went down, and spoiler warning, spoiler alert, Frankenstein gets shot in the head, and it's a very sad moment. It did kind of jolt me awake in the theater, admittedly, and when they're in the lab she's trying to bring him back to life and everything, and the scientist is saying this cannot be happening, I need to just experiment on him, basically. And then the mobster's also there, and everything's just going tits up. And then, yeah, I turn on my seat heat trying to pay attention, and I just completely drift off, man. And then the next thing I know, I hear a gunshot. The bride's getting hammered with bullets. Like, I already gave a spoiler warning, so I apologize for just spoiling the end here. But yeah, they both die, the mobster's dead, and then Penelope Cruz eventually leaves, and they resurrect the lab scientist and her assistant, resurrect Frankenstein and the bride, and they hold hands, and then you get the Monster Mash song, I kid you not, playing in the end credits. So, very abrupt ending there. But yeah, there's a lot of very weird experimental moments in this film that a lot of them stick, but a lot of them does not. So, I don't know how else to explain, but that's literally the ending that I could remember off the top of my brain. But yeah, overall, the film isn't terrible. I mean, I would recommend it just for the case of, you know what? It's a weird one. But I like weird. If you are a huge fan of weird movies, or if you like the Joker movies, you might like this one. I'm not too sure. If you're a huge fan of Maggie Gyllenhaal or Christian Bale, and you want to see him go freaky as Frankenstein, he does an okay job. The story's all over the place. Maybe that was the director's intention. I'm not sure. The story's a bit of a mess. The mobster storyline, you're either going to care about it or you're not. I just recommend seeing this when you are at least fully awake and not after a long week at work where you're already stressed out enough about a bunch of stuff happening in your life. So this is like very much a turn your brain off and enjoy the movie. And I did, for the most part, enjoy it. I just feel like I could have given this movie a little bit more due diligence if I just locked in for the entire time. But like I said, it was a long week. I've been tired, so unfortunately, I didn't stay as locked in as I wanted to, but for the most part, this movie did okay. If you can afford it, maybe go see it in IMAX, but I would just say stick to a regular theater. It's not a huge movie, but it's still, for what it is, it's okay. It's fun enough. But anyway, that's about it. Take it easy, everyone. See you in the next one. See ya.